want to give you a couple of examples of generational curses. I want you to know that through those curses, some of the children are affected and they're tempted towards being what they're not. And they take it upon themselves that it's them. So I had a person call me very young and tell me from the time that they were 5 years old, their mother told them that they had a problem. They were going to be, I don't want to say the word, okay. So they went to school, and all during school, everybody told him that he was, and everybody treated him like he was, and he never was in his heart, never. So he goes to college, and he gets the same treatment, okay. Now, when he called me, I heard an effeminate voice, so I knew what his problem was. And he didn't share that part with me. He just called me to ask me if I could pray with him for him to hear the voice of God. Well, I felt very led to pray for him the way the Lord told me to break powers of curses over his life. And I did it, targeted the one that I knew was troubling him that he never shared. He never told me. The next day, he called me again and he said, I want to tell you what I've been struggling with. And he told me what his mother said, what the children said, what everybody said. And he said, inside of me, I know it's not true because I've never wanted that, never felt, but I don't understand this. I don't know why these people do this. And I laughed. I bust out laughing. And I'll tell you why. I says, here you are, you called me to tell me that you couldn't hear God's voice. But here you are, from the time you were 5 years old, all through high school, you heard God's voice inside of you. That voice inside of you said, I created you a man. You didn't listen to your peers. You didn't listen to your mother. You listened to God. He was shocked when the power of God hit him with this truth. Because you see, this wasn't demonic. This wasn't Satan's power over him. This was understanding. And so when the power of God hit him and he spoke with a man's voice because he was completely free. Now, he was completely free of that curse from past generations. Because you know why? He broke fellowship with it. He realized God made me a man. And I said to him, if I was in your shoes, I would rejoice. I would walk around the house with my Bible and say, God made me a man. And you know what? He got so blessed because he did that. Do you understand what I'm telling you about curses? What they can do to the mind and body of the young that don't know anything? But this young man was so filled with a desire and love for God that nobody could convince him that he was something he was not. Not everybody is that strong. Not everybody can do that. But boy, oh boy, he did. There was another person that they were living like a hermit. They had nobody in their life to ever talk to. And I've known many women and even men like this that lived a life where they had nobody in their life. They had nobody to even trouble with them or care about them or nothing. And excuse me. And so when I prayed with them, I targeted what God showed me what was wrong, and instantly that whole life changed. That whole life changed. Where the person talked real fast and a lot because they were so lonely because they didn't talk. Now they're showered with the love of their family like you would not believe. All because of understanding how those curses work. Now, I could tell it to you all day long, but I can promise you and guarantee you, you still may never catch it. And I'll tell you why. You weren't called to that teaching. You weren't called to understand it. You can grab it and take a piece of it and run with it and make yourself something you're not. You can do that. Do that all you want. Have at it. Have at it. But that desire to be something that you are not could be in the generations. That desire to run with it. I mean, I have seen prophets that have a powerful prophetic utterance on them. Powerful. And I mean, oh my goodness, they would be considered to be powerful prophets, but it's a prophetic utterance. Where I say prophetic utterance because they do not live the life of a prophet 24/7. They don't. They come in contact with God only at times, at certain times. And they hear from God only at certain times. Only if they're in prayer, only if they're this, but they don't hear from God 24/7 all the time. Anyway, these people, I'm not saying that they don't have a gift. I'm not saying that God isn't using them. I'm not saying that God can't because I know He does. And some of them are phenomenal. But I know that when you take the gift and you take it to yourself and you use it for personal interpretation, personal. In other words, somebody comes to you and says, "Do you have a word for me?" That's personal. I don't like to give out personal words. If you have a need, which is a physical need or a spiritual need, I, I will do that. But to give you a personal, I mean, I've known of people that have gone to the altar and all they wanted to do was hear about how God was going to use them, how God loved them, how God this and how God that. And then they would go to the next prophet and get the same one and get the next prophet and get the same one until finally they got sick of it. They got to the place where they said, "I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear about this preacher and that preacher. I want to hear about me and what I'm going to do." They never searched in the Word. They never went to God with the prophecy. They never strove to figure out what their part to do with it was. God couldn't make them into what He wanted to make them because they wouldn't let Him. Because if somebody speaks a word over you, you should take that home and you should work on it. You should go into the Bible and say, "Well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Lord, show me what you are saying to me. Give me wisdom and help me and understand what you are saying to me." But they don't do that. They don't want to. It's too much work. They want it, handed down from heaven. I'm going to be everything. Name it and claim it. It's going to happen. That's the problem with naming it and claiming it. Because it's not going to happen. Because when something is given to you, You go before God with it. You take it to heart. He gives it back to you. You take it to heart and you work with it until you understand exactly what He wants of you. Exactly. It took me a long time to find out what He wanted of me. I worked a long time seeking God on wanting to know exactly. And then I had to allow Him to train me in it. I had to allow Him to teach me in it. And it took years and years. I'm not telling you you're facing years, but I am telling you it just depends on what your call is. It's not up to me to find your call or even prophesy it. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't do that anyway. If God came to me and told me what He called you to, I would never tell you. And I'll tell you why. It's up for you to find out. It's not for me to find out. It's up for you. I might pray for you that you find it, but that's it. If God shows me something good about you, then I'm to tell it because He wants to encourage you and strengthen it. If God shows me something that needs a warning, I'm to tell it because He doesn't want you in trouble. He doesn't want you hurting. That's what that gift is for, is to use to help you. It's not to use to hurt you or harm you. And conviction is a far cry from condemnation. Conviction means, don't go that way. I'm over here. Don't do this. I'm over here. I'll take you in over here. I'll help you over here. I'll show you a better way. But condemnation says, you're in trouble. You did it wrong. You've got all kinds of problems, and I doubt if you'll ever get out of it. That's condemnation, which I don't do. I'm not into. Oh, sometimes God uses me to warn people, and sometimes He uses me to warn them harshly. And the reason for that is because sometimes they're halfway down the cliff. Sometimes they're jumping right over it with glee. Sometimes because they believe they've gone through so much that God is going to make a special dispensation for them, that they're able to do a lot of things that they're not allowed to do. Until you're established as to who you are. You know, the mouth of two or more witnesses that are in authority should establish who you are. So if you claim to be a prophet, then that means you have to have people who are in authority that are pastors and preachers, and especially pastors and teachers, and they recognize that gift in you, and they will establish it that you are called by God. So if you don't have that, you are literally self-called. Nobody told you you were. You're just going by what you think and by what you feel. It's not established. I know, because nobody knows who I'm with and where I'm at. They think, oh, she's self-called, because I'm not connected to them, and I won't be. Oh, I won't be. If they're not obedient to God, I do not want connected to them, and I will not sit before any of them and have them say they taught me anything when they don't know enough to get out of the rain in their own life. How in the world are they ever going to teach me? Like I had said before, the media had said there was a great falling away in the church. Sure there was. There's a lot of people brokenhearted left because the pastors were not in the right place. And they were being used. Their money was being taken. It was terrible. I mean, I've seen some of them used like slaves, told what to do, treated like they're just garbage. Now, I didn't go up to these people and talk to them and say, well, I never spoke to them at all, ever. But I watched it. It didn't mean I didn't know it. If God would have told me to talk to them, I would have, but I didn't need to. They already found it out themselves. They finally wake up and they discover, hey, this isn't what God wanted me to be, their slave. God didn't want me to run their errands and do everything for them while they live at the top. Like I said, I could clean their latrines, but I wasn't good enough to sit at their table. That tells you a lot. Well, I'm not going to go there tonight. What I wanted to come to tell you is this: God loves you. Keep on keeping on. When you have someone in your own family that is adversarial to you, don't engage. If they pound at you the wrong thing, don't fight them. Why should you? Just leave it go and let God handle it. Just leave it go. Be kind, be sweet, be good, always making sure that you're forgiving. When you forgive them, you don't have any troubles with being kind to a person that you forgive. When you look at them and you understand, hey, they don't know what they're saying or doing. If they did, maybe they wouldn't do it. But when you look at them and you think, hey, how can I not forgive them? God forgave me. How can I not be forgiven to someone else? Oh, like I told you, that one woman says, oh, it just bothers me what people do. How could it? How could it bother you what someone else does when you did worse? When you hurt other people worse and you got your eyes on what other people are doing?